Alright, today we're going to do lesson 63, subtracting mixed numbers, and, keyword, and finding common denominators. Before, we've done subtracting mixed numbers separately from finding common denominators. Today we're going to combine them. Alrighty, let's go ahead and go over this problem right here. We have 6 1/4 minus 5 5/8. So, you've done problems like this before, but this is kind of combining everything we know into one problem. Alright, so first thing you know is that 4 and 8 are not they're not common denominators. So we're going to have to do this thing over here. Fraction bar, whole line. Okay? So to find the common denominator, you find the least common multiple. So let's do our multiples. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, so on and so forth. Multiples of 8, 16, 24, 32. We'll stop there. Notice that 8 is the least common multiple right there. Okay, 16 is a common multiple, but it's not the least common multiple. So 8 is going to be our common denominator. Okay, this problem right here already has an 8. So you don't have to do anything fancy. You just copy it over here. Don't forget your whole number. Don't forget your subtraction sign. This number over here, however, you need to find the numerator. 4, and what you do to do that is you ask yourself, 4 times what number equals 8? 4 times 2 equals 8. If you multiply the bottom by 2, you got to multiply the top by 2. Okay? I'm going to erase these multiples up here because we don't need them, and they'll just get jumbled. Okay? So I'm going to take 4 times 2 is 8. 1 times 2 is 2. Bring your 6 straight over. Now we can subtract. Wait, you can't take 5 away from 2. You can't take 5/8 away from 2/8. So you're going to have to borrow. I'm going to borrow from the 6. It's now going to become a 5. And then I'm going to add in a fraction that is equivalent to the one that we borrowed. Now, what's a fraction that's equivalent to 1? It could be 2/2, 3/3, 4/4. But we want one with a denominator of 8 because that's our common denominator, which would make the numerator also 8 because 8/8 equals 1 that we borrowed from the 5. 8/8 plus 2/8 is going to be 10/8. We no longer need the 8/8 because we added it into the 2/8 and made it 10/8. 10 minus 5 is 5. 10 minus 5 is 5. And then 8 is our denominator, so boom. 5 minus 5 is nothing. So your answer for number 11 on your homework and number 1 today is 5/8. So hopefully that helps you understand how to do those problems. We're just combining concepts and putting them together. Alright, here's another problem. 4 1/3 minus 1 1/2. So first thing you have to realize is you can't do anything because you don't have a common denominator. So I'm going to rewrite the problem over here. Fraction bar, whole line. Okay, our common denominator, let's do some multiples to find our common denominator. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 12. Notice 12 is a common denominator, or a common multiple, but we want the least common multiple, which in this case is going to be 6. So that way we have found our denominator. Now we got to find our numerator. So in order to do that, I need to ask myself, what do I multiply 2 by to get 6? Well, 2 times 3 is 6. If I multiply the bottom by 3, bottom of this fraction, got to multiply the top of that fraction by 3. Over here, 3 times what number is 6? Well, of course, that is 2. If you multiply the bottom of that fraction by 2, then you have to multiply the top by 2. Okay? Now, 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 3 is going to be 3. Don't forget your whole number. 3 6 equals 1/2. You guys know that. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. Don't forget your whole number. Boom. And we are subtracting those. Now, you cannot take 3 away from 2, so we need to borrow from the 4. The 4 now becomes a 3. Let's erase these numbers up here so it doesn't get too jumbled. Okay. Now I'm going to add a fraction over here that is equivalent to 1, and has a common denominator of 6. Of course, that's going to be 6 sixths. 6 sixths plus 2 sixths is going to be equal to 6 plus 2 is 8. Okay, erase that. We no longer need that. 8 minus 3 is going to be 5 sixths. You're not done. Don't forget your whole number. 3 minus 1 is 2. So your answer to this one is 2 and 5 sixths. This one is not in your homework. Okay, we now have an algebra problem. So we're combining a lot of different steps in here. Think back to the beginning of your 4th grade year. A problem like this would be completely untouchable. But we've broken this down into simple steps, and you guys are good at all these steps. What side do you start on? Well, the side with a variable. What's opposite subtracting? Well, of course, adding. So I'm going to add 3 2/3 to this side. Okay? If I add 3 2/3 to this side, I got to add 3 2/3 to this side. Okay? Now we have a whole new problem. Don't even look at this side of the problem. Actually, you can cancel that out, and all we have left on this side is w equals. So we're done with this side of the problem. Now we're just going to do this. Act like this is just a normal addition problem. Now you can't add these two together until you find a common denominator. Okay, so let's do fraction bar equal fraction bar, whole line. Okay, and we already know that our common denominator is 6 from the last problem, because 2 and 3, their least common multiple of 2 and 3 is 6. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this by 2. Okay, top and bottom of this fraction by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. Then I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. And then do not forget your whole number, 1 and 3. And this is an addition problem. Okay, so 3 plus 4 is going to be 7 sixths. 1 plus 3 is going to be 4 and 7 sixths. And you know that 7 sixths can break down into, let's find some room over here, top divided by bottom. 6 will go into 7 one time. 1 times 6 is 6. Subtract 1, so it's going to be 1 and 1/6. 7 sixths is the same as 1 and 1/6. So I can, over here, I can add 4 plus 1 and 1/6. Okay? And that's going to be equal to w equals 5 and 1/6. And this is problem number 9 on your homework. Number 9 on homework. Okay, I'll do a couple more homework problems. What is the difference between the sum of 6/10 and 4/10 and the product of 6/10 and 4/10? Well, the sum of 6/10 and 4/10, you can pretty much do that in your head. But if you can't, it's okay to show your work. Okay? 6/10 plus 4/10 is going to be 10/10. Carry the 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. Bring your decimal straight down. Notice, I lined up the decimals. Okay? When you add or subtract decimal numbers, you line up the decimal points. So that is the sum. And now we got to find the product of 6/10 and 4/10. So this is going to be a multiplication problem. Okay? Now, this happened to be lined up, but you don't go out of your way to line up the decimal points. You just write the numbers and multiply them. 6 times 4 is going to be 24. Okay? 4 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. Then you count how many places the decimal has been moved over. Okay? So the decimal's been moved over 2 places on top, which means you're going to move it over 2 places on bottom. I'm going to erase these jumps on the bottom here so it doesn't get jumbled. Now it says, what is the difference between the sum, which is 1, and the product, which is 24 hundredths? So we got to find the difference between those. Difference means subtract. So I'm going to take 1. I'm adding 2 zeros here because I know that I need this out to the hundredths place, since this product right here is to the hundredths place. And since I'm subtracting, I go out of my way to line up the decimal point. So this is going to be 24 hundredths. Now, you can't take 0 or 4 away from 0, so we're going to borrow. This is going to become a 9, because I'm also borrowing from that 0. to make this 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. 9 minus 2 is 7. Decimal comes straight down. There's nothing there. So your answer is going to be 76 hundredths. All right, that last problem was number 1 on your homework. I'm now going to do number 23 on your homework, which will be number 5 for this lesson. And it has a rectangle that looks something like this. 30 centimeters on top, I think, and 10 centimeters on the side. Then it says find the area of this rectangle. Okay, so area is equal to length times width. So this is 30 times 10, which is very easy to do. 30 times 10 is going to be 300 centimeters squared. That's your area. But there's a catch to this. If you look at the picture in your book, it has a line that cuts this in half diagonal. And it says, what is the area of the shaded region? Notice what I just said. I said it's cut in, keyword, half. So it just wants half of the area, which is this kind of this triangle shape. It is a triangle, okay? So this triangle is half of the whole rectangle. So your area is going to take this, the whole area of the whole rectangle, and divide it by 2. Okay? So 300 divided by 2 is going to be 150 centimeters squared. That is the area of the shaded region.